Hey everybody, it's PJ from .FL and Karma Airguns, and you're watching this video today most likely because you're either trying to do some maintenance on your Red Panda that involves some part swaps or upgrades or something along those lines, or you're moving from a 2024 spec Red Panda to a 2025 spec Red Panda. So this is what I'd throw out to you. Before you do any wrenching on your airgun, please watch all of the videos. There is kind of a sequence to them, and what we want to make sure that you're absolutely understanding is how important it is to degas your airgun before you do any of the part removal that we're talking about in this series of airguns. If your airgun is under pressure, you run the risk of damaging the airgun and possibly injuring yourself or someone else. So if you have questions about how to degas the airgun, I've already done it on the gun that we're going to be working with. Go back to the first video. That's the one where we talk about the degassing procedure. So make sure you've checked that out. Now on to the show. In our last video, we stripped all the internal parts, well, not all of them, but most of the internal parts out of your Red Panda action. Now you might have been doing that because you had a maintenance issue and something had to be replaced. You might be switching from 2024 spec parts to 2025 spec parts. Hard for me to say, I'm just filming a video. But in this video, we're gonna walk through reinstalling the internal action parts so that we can get your gun back to running. Now, one of the first things I recommend you do is take this valve seat and go ahead, figure out where the up is, which is the hole. The air is going to go up to the radial transfer port of the barrel and send the pellet down range. But you can hopefully see here, I've made a little mark with a Sharpie where up is. Now where this part is going to go is right in here, basically where we took the old one out. And if I could give you just a little bit of a pro tip, it's easier to drop it in if you actually drive it in with something like an Allen. Now before we go ahead and put it in, we've got some O-rings here, and they deserve just a small amount of silicone grease. It should not be goopy. We just want a little bit to get those O-rings slightly lubed up. And then I'm gonna go straight in there until I feel a little bit of resistance, and then pop that in. And if I look, I can see that my line is mostly up, and I can see the flat of the bottom side of that seat right through that hole. So if you remember this little grub screw that we took out of this hole from underneath the trigger guard, we're just going to put that guy back in there with a 3mm. This grub screw not only holds that valve body in, but it also helps us to center it. So what you want to do is get it in till it bottoms out, turn it a little bit, then turn it back, turn it a little bit, turn it back. You may have to adjust, turn it a little bit, and then look at your line that you put on that valve seat to see if it is moving to where you want it. It should be. This will not turn it like 20 degrees or 15 degrees. It'll move it like 1 or 2 degrees. So you can, again, twist a little bit, back it off, and then tighten it again, and it will work that into perfect position for you. So that's looking really good on that end. Now on the front side, I'll go back to my bag, and I'm going to take out my new valve stem, and I'm going to drop that in there so it goes through. Okay, so that's in there. I'm going to take my old spring, so we're reusing that spring, put that in, And then I can get this started. And that uses a 5mm Allen. You'll feel a little resistance as this seats because remember there's that spring under there. But if you feel resistance when you're just starting out, that probably means you're cross-threaded, so you want to back off. Doesn't have to be Gorilla tight, it just bottoms out. Now we can go around to the back side and we're going to take our new hammer out of the bag. These hammers are shipped with a little bit and sometimes a lot of oil. So if it's oily, this hammer likes to run kind of dry. So just want to take a moment and get any of that excess oil off of it. And there is a right way and a wrong way to install the hammer. The right way is to have this smaller face go in first. And you will likely have to manipulate either the trigger and or the cocking lever to get it to go in all the way and seat. There is also a little O-ring in your parts bag, and that O-ring is meant to be installed over this rod, which is your hammer spring adjuster. And then you're going to take your new hammer, and I would put this on, and I would put a little bit of push on there to seat that O-ring. You want that all the way down. There's a groove in there. Now, we didn't take an O-ring out because there wasn't one in there before. Part of the 2025 specification is having that O-ring down in there. So the hammer spring goes over, and then this slides in. Now, at some point, we're going to have to line up this hole with the window to screw in our indicator. I am gonna see if I can get this started first. And then I'm gonna turn that until I get that screw hole exposed so I can start this guy. And I will tell you that this is just one of those things that takes a little bit of luck, a little bit of a deft hand, and then another little bit of luck. So once you have that in, you can just continue to screw this in. There may be a point where as it brings the parts together, you have to advance the hammer spring a little bit to create a little bit more internal space. And that will allow you to thread that all the way down to the bottom. And then once that bottoms out, you can give that a turn. If you feel that your hammer spring turns too loosely or too tightly, there are, I think they're 2.5mm screws. And they are inside here. And you can either tighten or loosen those screws so that you get the amount of hammer spring tension that you like for your own air gun. At this point, we can put the trigger guard back on. And again, these are 3mm screws. Get those nice and tight. And in the next video, we will go through the process for reassembling and reattaching the rear buttstock. So we'll see you in a few minutes.